Hello friends, welcome to my channel Clinical Biochemistry by Dr. P.K. Prabhakar. Today we are going to talk about another inborn error of metabolic disorders, and today we are going to talk about the IEM, inborn error of metabolic disorders, from the amino acid pathway. So the first we are going to talk about the phenylketonuria. This is one of the important inborn error of metabolism, you can call it. So this phenylketonuria, as its name suggests, it is related to phenylalanine. Now first, before going to talk about the disease, we should see something about the phenylalanine. What is phenylalanine? So phenylalanine, it is an amino acids which is a aromatic amino acid. So phenylalanine is an aromatic amino acid. Aromatic amino acid means, if you see the structure of phenylalanine, aromatic amino acid. So phenylalanine is having a structure is roughly this is the structure of phenylalanine, and the different tyrosine amino acids structure is, it is having OH group. So this is the aromatic amino acids. So both phenylalanine and tyrosine are the aromatic amino acids. Now another feature of this phenylalanine and tyrosine is, phenylalanine is an essential amino acids. Phenylalanine is an essential amino acid. Essential amino acid means in our body we are unable to synthesize phenylalanine in our body. So phenylalanine normally we take from the diet, from the external sources, but this tyrosine is the non-essential amino acids. So phenylalanine is in essential amino acids, whereas tyrosine, if you will see it, is in non-essential amino acids. Now the function of phenylalanine in our body is, only two functions phenylalanine do. First, it either participate in protein synthesis, it will give you protein synthesis, or it will convert it into tyrosine. So phenylalanine does not have any function. Phenylalanine perform only two functions in our body. One is it will participate in the protein synthesis, and second it is converted into tyrosine. So conversion of phenylalanine to the tyrosine is by this process. This is the mechanism by which it is converted into tyrosine. So what is that chemical reactions by which it is going to be converted into tyrosines? So phenylalanine is going to be converted into tyrosine by a specific enzymes. That enzyme is called as phenylalanine hydroxylase. This phenylalanine hydroxylase utilizes one of the oxygen molecules, O2, and this oxygen utilizations, and it also requires a cofactor that is called as tetrahydrobiopterin. This tetrahydrobiopterin is going to be reduced. So BH4, this is tetrahydro, means 4 hydrogen, this is dihydro, means 2 hydrogen. So this tetrahydrobiopterin is converted into dihydrobiopterin, and 2 of the hydrogen will be used here from here. So this 2 oxygen and 2 hydrogen from here, so it will exit in the form of water, and phenylalanine will convert into tyrosine. In our body we are having very limited stocks of tetrahydrobiopterin. So we don't have very much tetrahydrobiopterin, so that continuously this process is going on. So what we have to do, this process we have to recycle, means we have used tetrahydrobiopterin here, so we have got dihydrobiopterin, but for continuous running of this process we require this enzyme, this BH2 has to be converted back to BH4. So for that one we require a specific reactions. For a specific reaction which is catalyzed by dihydrobiopterin reductase. This process, this conversion, this recycling of BH2 to BH4 utilizes one of the very important cofactor of our body, that is NADPH. This NADPH, again we don't have very much resources, only few biochemical pathway we are having in our body which produces this NADPH. One of the important pathway which produces NADPH is HMP shunt pathway. This NADPH is one of the important antioxidant component of our body which protect us from the free radical, because it requires for the glutathione reductase reactions. So, this NADPH will be used for the conversion of BH2 to BH4 by the enzyme dihydrobiopterin reductase, and ultimately this NADPH will be converted back to NADP plus. So, ultimately we have got BH4. So, this reaction continuously going on. So, this is phenylalanine is converted to tyrosine and then it will be metabolized. So, either you are having only tyrosine in your body, so it will be utilized, or if you are taking phenylalanine by through the diet through different sources, this will also give you tyrosine and then it will be utilized. So, the function of phenylalanine is just converted into the tyrosine and then rest of the process will happen. Now, phenylalanine, because we in our body we cannot synthesize it, so that is why it is a essential amino acids, but tyrosine we get from phenylalanine, so that is why tyrosine becomes non-essential amino acids. Now, in our diet, if directly I will get tyrosine, I don't, if I am not going to get phenylalanine directly, I am going to get tyrosine in my diet. So, what will happen? My requirement or my dependency on the phenylalanine is reduced. So, if we get directly tyrosine in our diet, so my dependency on this essential amino acid will be reduced. In that case, we don't at all require phenylalanine. This type of process, this is called as sparing action of tyrosine over the phenylalanine. Means, if you are having sufficient amount of tyrosine by through the diet through other resources, then we don't require phenylalanine. Obviously, phenylalanine is an essential amino acid, but we don't require that one also. Why we don't require? Because we are having sufficient amount of tyrosine. This is called as a sparing action of tyrosine over phenylalanine. So, this is one thing. If you will see both phenylalanine and tyrosine, their metabolic processes, how they are going to metabolize. So, during the metabolic process, these both phenylalanine and tyrosine will give us acetoacetate, which ultimately gives us fat synthesis, and it gives us fumarate, which ultimately gives us, it will be converted to glucose depending on body's requirement through gluconeogenesis process. Means both phenylalanine and tyrosines can give you glucose also and give you fat also. It can synthesize fat also, it can give you glucose also. So, both the enzymes are glucogenic and ketogenic both. So, it gives you both glucose and ketone body. We will see further when we will talk about tyrosine metabolic process, then we will see how this is going to give me acetoacetate and fumarate. Now, what is the use of this tyrosine in our body? What is the use of phenylalanine ultimately through tyrosine only? What is the use of this one? How it is going to be utilized? So, this tyrosine and phenylalanine gives us number of different important biomolecules. What are those biomolecules? It gives you epinephrine hormone, it gives you norepinephrine, it gives me DOPA, it gives me T3 T4 hormone, it gives is melanin. Melanin is our body color depends on this melanin only. So, melanin is the color of our body, means it is a color producing substance which gives me different color at the different, like my hair color, my eye color, my skin color. So, all these depends on melanin. So, these are the important biomolecules which we get from this tyrosine and phenylalanine. Now, we have already seen how this phenylalanine is converted into tyrosine. So, if in case of phenylketonuria, this enzyme mainly, or you can call it classical phenylketonuria, which was originally it was discovered. So, that time this is the enzyme which is going to be defective. So, we don't have, or we are having defective this enzyme we are going to call PAH, phenylalanine hydroxylase. So, this enzyme is defective. So, gene for this PAH is we don't have, or it is a mutated genes. So, ultimately we don't have, this reaction is going to happen. So, if this reaction will not happen, then what will happen? Phenylalanine will not be converted into tyrosine. So, in that case, if this reaction does not happen, then phenylalanine is going to be accumulated in our body. So, accumulation of phenylalanine will be there. So, that is a phenylketonuria. why that, from where this term comes, that we are going to come here. So, in that case, if you do not have phenyl means if you do not have this enzyme, so phenylalanine will be accumulated and ultimately we will not get tyrosine also. So, then our dependency on tyrosine will be there. If this defect is there, means we are not getting tyrosine from the phenylalanine, then this tyrosine, which is normally non-essential, but in the case of phenylketonuria patient where this is defective enzyme, then this tyrosine, which is non-essential amino acid, it becomes essential. Why it becomes essential? Because this enzyme does not works, and this enzyme does not work means we are not having phenylalanine gives me tyrosine. So, then we are having a limited resource of tyrosine. So, tyrosine becomes essential in that case. Now, when this phenylalanine is accumulated in our body, so this is the biochemical pathway of phenylalanine conversion to tyrosine. Now, we will see when phenylalanine is accumulated in our body, then what is the complications, what is going to happen. So, first we are having phenylalanine in our body. Phenylalanine. So, this is a aromatic amino acid which normally accumulated in our body. Normally metabolic process of this one is, this is going to be converted into tyrosine by a PAH enzyme, but in case of phenylketonuria this is defective. So, we are having accumulated sufficient amount or more amount of phenylalanine is in our body. So, this accumulated amount of phenylalanine is going to be converted into a diverted pathway, a different kind of metabolic pathway where it is going to be utilized. So, one of the pathway is phenylalanine is going to be converted into phenyl pyruvate. So, this is going to be converted into phenyl pyruvate by a enzyme transaminase. By a enzyme transaminase, it is converted into phenyl pyruvate. This is a keto acid. This phenyl pyruvate is having normally two pathway. It is going to be divided into two different pathway. In one pathway, another pathway, both pathway is going to use NADH. So, this pathway phenyl pyruvate is converted into phenyl acetate and phenyl lactate. So, here it is going to be converted to phenyl acetate, and here it is going to be converted to phenyl lactate. This is also a keto acid. This is also a keto acid. Now, both the reactions, this reactions uses NADH. This is going to use NADH. It will give you plus H plus, it will be converted into NAD plus, and in this case it is going to use NAD plus reverse. So, it is here it is going to use NAD plus and convert it back to NADH plus H plus. So, once we are having accumulated amount of phenylalanine in our body, so this phenylalanine is going to be diverted into different other pathway. Through those pathway, ultimately it is going to give me different kind of metabolites. What are those metabolites? They are going to give me phenyl pyruvate, they are going to give me phenyl acetate, they are going to give me phenyl lactate, and all are keto acids. So, in our case, in case of this phenylketonuria where this enzyme is defective, we are having accumulation of, or in our body we are having accumulation of keto acid. And which type of keto acid? All are phenylic. So, we are having phenyl keto acids is accumulated in our body. So, normally the phenylketonuric patients is having in their urines, they are having phenylalanine, they are having phenyl pyruvate, they are having phenyl acetate, they are having phenyl lactate. So, these compounds normally present in their urines, and all are phenyl keto acids. So, that is why from there it only this terms come there. Phenylketonuria means phenyl means phenylic groups, keto means ketonic acids, keto acids, and urea means it is in the present in the urine. So, this phenylketonuria words come from this pathway only, where accumulated product of phenylalanine is going to be excreted through the urine in different means through the urine. Now, because of this keto acids only, especially the maximum content we are having in our urine is phenyl pyruvate, and because of that one, because of this keto acids, the urine color is urine smell is moissy smell, means mouse like smell. So, the moissy smell of urine is because of this phenyl keto acids. Sorry. Now, so what will happen, how this is, so this is because these are water soluble, so it can be excreted from our body, but this is going to cause different kind of defects in our body. If we are having this enzyme is defective, so we are having a more amount of phenylalanine, more amount of phenyl keto acids. How it is going to affect our normal physiology? Because of this one, we are having different kind of abnormality, different kind of defects. We are having not able to walk properly, not able to talk properly. We are having seizures, tremors, so all the things, mental retardations, in this case we are having IQ level is almost equal to less than 50. So, that is, these are the things which is going to happen, but why this is going to happen? So, we will say, so these are the different kind of sign and symptoms, but why this happens? So, if you will see the structure of, there are you know that we are having 3 aromatic amino acids in our body. We are having phenylalanine, tyrosine and tryptophan. So, these are the 3 aromatic amino acids. So, means their structure is almost same, they are structurally similar compounds. So, because we are having more amount of phenylalanine in our body, so this more amount of phenylalanine reaches to the brain. So, what happens? This extra amount of phenylalanine normally affects the transportation or the metabolism of other aromatic amines, like this phenylalanine, tyrosine are almost related. So, this phenylalanine, accumulated amount of phenylalanine is going to affect the transportation and the metabolic process of tryptophan in our brain. So, what will happen? And tyrosine also, because we do not have tyrosine also. So, phenylalanine affects the metabolic process of other aromatic amino acids. So, that defect, so when we are unable to metabolize tryptophan, so whatever usage of tryptophan will be there, that is going to be affected, that is going to be hampered. So, because of that one, brain mental retardation will be there, and once this will be accumulated in our tissue, it is going to damage our nerve cells, nervous systems. So, neurons will be damaged, and because neuron will be damaged, so mentally retarded people will be there. Second is this phenylalanine normally is going to be competitive. If you know that tryptophan gives us, by decarboxylation process, it gives us serotonin. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter. It is a neurotransmitter, and which type of neurotransmitter it is? It is excitatory neurotransmitter. So, tryptophan normally gives us serotonin, and that is working as a neurotransmitter, but because we are having higher amount of phenylalanine in our body, so this high amount of phenylalanine competitively inhibits this process, conversion of tryptophan to serotonin. So, this serotonin to tryptophan to serotonin conversion is also going to be hampered, going to be slowed down because of high level of phenylalanine. So, we do not have too much amount of serotonin synthesis in our body, in our brains, in our nervous system. So, that is also going to affect the nerve conduction, nerve signaling processes. Other than this one, this phenylalanine also affect the myelin sheath formation. Myelin sheath formation. What is this myelin sheath? This myelin sheath is normally we are having nerve cells, and in the nerve cells it is covered, nerve cells are covered with the lipid membrane. So, if you will see, this is our nerve cell, this is axons. So, this axon is covered with the lipid layer, and this lipid layer is called as myelin sheath. This is our myelin sheath. The function of this myelin sheath is normally it works as a insulator. So, this is a insulator, and this insulator does not allow the action potential to leak out. So, the whatever action potential will start from here, it will completely reach to the next synapses. So, myelin sheath normally works as insulator which does not allow to leaking of the any kind of action potential, but the accumulated amount of phenylalanine is going to affect the myelin sheath formation. So, when myelin sheath will not forms, so the action potential movement transportation is going to be affected. This is, so these are the different kind of defect. One more defect which is caused because of this phenylalanine accumulation is, it is going to leads to hypopigmentation. Hypopigmentation. I have told you one of the function of phenylalanine and tyrosine is it produces melanin. Melanin is nothing, it is a color producing compound of our body which produces color of our skins, color of our skin means eye, color of our hairs. So, when we do not have means tyrosine, means this phenylalanine is not converted into tyrosine, and tyrosine will be used for melanin formation, but because this phenylalanine is going to be not converted into tyrosine, so no melanin synthesis will be there. When we do not have melanin synthesis, so obviously the pigmentation in our body is going to be affected. So, different places like skins, eye will having less pigmentations. So, this is the complications which is caused during the phenylketonuria. Now, if we will see how it is going to be treated, means diagnosed. So, there are two tests by which we can diagnose phenylketonuric patients. One is confirmatory test, other one is non-confirmatory test, which is a non-specific test. So, the confirmatory test which we can call it, that is called as Guthrie test. So, we are talking about diagnosis. So, Guthrie test. This is a test which is normally we are going to use a bacteria, that is Bacillus subtilis. So, this Guthrie test is a bacterial bioassay for the phenylalanine, where we are going to use bacteria Bacillus subtilis. This test is performed after the baby, once baby will be feeded with breast milk for a couple of days, then we are going to perform this test. In India or in most of the country, normally we are not going to perform this test, but if you go to USA, this Guthrie test or the test for phenylketonuria, PKU, in short form we are going to call it PKU. So, in USA this phenylketonuria test is almost compulsory for every baby birth. After the birth they have to go phenylketonuria test. So, this is a test by which we can perform it. So, second test we are having, that is called as ferric chloride test. Ferric chloride test. This test is a chemical test which is normally based on the benzene ring group. So, if any other compound also will be there which is having a benzene ring, that will give me this positive test. So, this test is normally not very specific only for the phenylalanine, but for other compound also gives a positive test. So, this is not a very specific test, but this test is a specific test which we are going to perform for phenylalanine. What is the treatment, what is the management of this, how to avoid phenylalanine? So, we do not have too much of treatments. The thing is, we have to avoid the person who is having phenylketonuria. If we come to know, person should be avoided any food which contains phenylalanine. So, normally phenylalanine deficient foods they will be given, and in that case they are dependent on tyrosine for most of their functions which phenylalanine has to do. So, in that case their tyrosine will be essential amino acids, and person has to take tyrosine in their food regularly. This is the phenylketonuria which commonly occurs, and because it is autosomal recessive disease. So, like most of the inborn error metabolism, this is also autosomal recessive. Its inheritance is autosomal recessive, means in the offspring we require both the allele from father also. So, from one allele from father, one allele from mother side. So, both allele will be there then only the disease will occur. Otherwise, if in case of heterozygous conditions, the disease will be, person will be concerned, baby will be only carrier, he will not have any kind of disease. So, for disease to be expressible, person needs both the allele from both the parents. So, because of this autosomal recessive conditions, its occurrence is roughly 1 in every 10,000 birth. So, occurrence is compared to other involuntary metabolism, its occurrence is little bit higher side. So, this is all about phenylketonuria. Next day we will talk about other disease, other involuntary metabolism, mainly we will talk about L-captonuria. So, hope you have understand it. If you have any query, any comments, you can write in the comment box. If you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.